Hello and welcome to Legends of Tabletop. I'm Gabino Iglesias, author of Zero Saints and Coyote Songs, and I am truly honored to be here today.
I am so very thankful that you have chosen to take the time to speak with me today regarding coyote songs. I loved the book.
Thank
Get
you.
this book if you haven't yet. So yes, I absolutely adored it, and thank you again so much. So you said you're visiting family today.
Hi, it
Well,
is.
not just today. You've been out there for how long?
I got here on the afternoon of the 4th. Yeah, June
Mhm.
4th. Yeah.
Okay. So you've been in Puerto Rico for quite some time, like
It
a week.
sometimes it feels like 2 days and sometimes it feels like a month. But yeah, I've been here a couple days. I hadn't been here in 2.5 years, so it feels good to come back and yeah, just visiting people and going places and getting as much beach time as I can
Okay.
because Austin has many things, but Austin does not have a beach. So I have to come here to get that.
Okay. That sounds like quite a bit of fun. As you can tell from my pale complexion, I'm landlocked. So oh my goodness. But yeah, let's see. What while I have listened a little bit to prior podcasts that you've done and been on and participated in, not everyone that's listening today has. And I'm certain we're going to repeat a little bit of what I'm absolutely certain you may already be getting a little bit sick of. So um, please, if you would like to offer a little bit of your background and what you feel it brings to the weird fiction scene, what your absolutely awesome works. Barrio noir is one of the words that I see repeated over and over again. Please tell us more.
Sure thing, and I don't. When it comes to talking about movies and books and literature and just writing itself, I don't get tired ever. That's why I tell people on Twitter just like invite me to cool things. I'll come and we'll chat. No, I started writing. I can't even remember when. I remember getting in trouble in school for writing horror stories. So I was always writing, and then in 2008 I moved to the U.S. and I decided I was going to start from scratch and write in English because I had been writing in Spanish my entire life.
Mhm.
And then I wrote a very bad, probably 120,000 word novel that was never published, obviously. Then I wrote a couple other things. And then in 2012, Gutmouth came out, and it was a short, bizarro novella that Eraserhead put out. Very weird. It's about a man who has a mouth in his stomach, and that his three-breasted girlfriend cheats on him with the mouth. Um, so, so that was the start of everything. And then I published Hungry Darkness, which is currently out of print with Severed Press, and it was a straight up horror story. And then I kind of took a break and sort of worked on Zero Saints, which was too much of a horror novel for the people who usually read crime. It had too much crime for the people who usually just liked straight up horror stories. It had syncretism, it had magic, it was sort of like a magic realism type of thing. It had elements of the paranormal, and it had a political message. And I sort of got tired of explaining what it was.
Mhm.
And then one day I just sat down and I said, I'm trying to put. It was also bilingual. It still is bilingual if you buy and read it. Um, Actually, more than bilingual because there's a little bit of Yoruba and a little bit of Russian in that book as well. And I just on a whim, I just decided to create my own genre so that I could steer clear of the very long explanations, and that's how Barrio Noir was born. And I stamped those two words on the title page when I sent it up publisher, and it's been a thing ever since. And then when Coyote Songs was about to come out, it had some of the same elements. And then Zero Saints sort of put me on the map. At least, the indie press world is not that big, so I decided to roll with it, and it's what I've been doing. It's what I love. It's what I'm gonna be doing for at least the next 3 or 4 novels. So I guess that covers
Excellent.
it.
Well, no, what do you have coming up in the pipeline that we should be aware of?
It doesn't have a title yet. I'm about 30,000 words into the next one. There's
Uh-huh.
a wonderful agent in New York waiting for it. If she likes it, I don't know the process. Never worked with an agent before. If she doesn't like it, I'll do my best to sort of go indie and get it to be in print as soon as possible.
Okay.
um, and then during the day gig, I'm a teacher, so I'm a teacher during the day, and then I teach MFA courses online at night. So it has to happen in the summer. This is writing time, hopefully.
Okay.
So it'll be at some point in July. Fingers crossed, it'll be done ish, because it's never done.
Of course not. It never is. As long as you don't fall victim into the editing for it.
No, I like working with editors. It'll never be perfect, so I'll make it as good as I can, and then I'll send it up to the pros, and they will. Whoever works with it will probably make it a little better, and then I'm gonna call it quits.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll spend 12 years working on it. So,
Oh man. So you do teach. Which age group do you find to be the most exciting and why?
well, I taught adults ESL classes to undocumented workers in Austin for about a year. That's
Mhm.
a pretty wild bunch. They were a lot of fun. Love them to death. But before that, I taught college for 11 years. So it's been kind of. I started teaching high school in August, and it's been a weird change because
Ah,
yeah, suddenly I got older apparently, and now freshmen are kind of kids, and like I remember feeling like I was an adult when I was in ninth grade, but they're really not. uh, but I teach the entire four grades in high school, so
okay.
9th, 10th, 11th, and seniors.
What has been the biggest hurdle for you to overcome switching age groups like that?
First of all, and it's funny that I'm asked this I'm trying to contain my F words, which
Mhm.
I try to do during all
We are an
interviews.
unrated.
Yeah,
We're
I,
unrated.
but I said I try. I didn't make any promises. Uh,
No, if you
um,
if you do let one slip, I'm not
yeah.
joking.
So in high school they're a little bit more judgmental than that.
That's true.
So for me, it was sort of I've become accustomed to dealing with adults. People are 20, 30, 40 years old, and then you have more in common with those people, and then your discourse is sort of stronger. And then when you I had a kid the last week of class say that a ninth grader, by the way, he didn't understand what the whole buzz was about Alabama, because he thought that if women had sex, they should go forth and carry the baby under all circumstances. And then I had to stop and be like, am I really gonna have this discussion with a freshman? What what have you done in your life? Who have you
Oh,
met? What have you gone through? What have you read? What do you understand about abortion and rape and the law? And I'm just not gonna have this conversation. So it's been hard to adapt to realizing that sometimes you're talking to somebody who's in 10th grade and they're 6'4", but
yeah.
it's a kid. Uh, so yeah, I'm still trying. We'll start again in August, and we'll see how that goes.
Wow. Now, tell me, how does your unique background give you a distinct advantage when it comes to the art of story creation and storytelling?
I have to do less research than some of the people that I've met. Uh, I I think. growing up in the Caribbean, living for a short time in Spain for a couple years, moving to the U.S. and having two languages and having the opportunity to interact with the best academics that the University of Texas at Austin has to offer, and then spending a year in the company of undocumented workers with no education. It's sort of, you just grasp things out of the air and you become a better storyteller. And then I've been in love with books forever, so I've always been reading, and I get into arguments. This is a hill that I continually choose to die on. You cannot be a good storyteller if you don't read like a maniac. So
Yeah.
so I spend my life reading and reviewing books. So some of the stuff that I know just comes naturally. Some I learn on the streets, and some is just from reading amazing authors. Um, so yeah, I'll repeat that. If you can't be a good writer if you don't read. So we can fight about that all day.
Oh, good. I am forced to agree with you 100% there.
Awesome.
But yes, you had mentioned the Caribbean, and that brings me to the next discussion point that I would like to explore. Superstition.
Yeah.
Definition of superstition: belief or practice resulting from ignorance, fear of the unknown, trust in magic or chance, or a false conception of causation. Now, how would you feel that you have used superstition in the creations of your works and your storytelling?
See, I have a kind of a problem with the first part of that definition because some of the most brilliant people I've ever met are superstitious, which kind of makes me think, they're onto something. Uh, and also that word wasn't part of my vocabulary for a very long time because it was just what people did. So some of them believed in God, and some of them only prayed to baby Jesus, and some of them had an entire pantheon of gods, and they sliced the necks of chickens and they left stuff outside their doors at night, and it was all kind of part of the same thing. So I grew up with my grandma. Not allowing me to use the bathroom in the hallway because that was the bathroom where she kept her candles and stuff, and it belonged to the spirits. So the spirits in the house had that space; they could occupy that space. And the candles and the offers were going on at all times, and so I never thought like, oh, she's superstitious. It was just like when I grew up, oh, why am I not supposed to put allow women to put their purse on the floor? Why can't I open the umbrella inside the house? That's stupid. Uh, why does it matter what side of the ladder I walk under or around? Why is that a thing about black cats? I don't get it. So I started understanding what it was years later, and sort of I decided not to break away with that or treat it as something that was not important. And moving to the U.S., I discovered, well, first the Mexican population. I first couple of years I hung out with nothing but Mexicans, and they are so devoted, to the point that it kind of transgresses the Catholic faith or the Christian faith. It just goes above and beyond. Um, to like the use of milagritos and lighting candles and having all these things, and I just soaked it all up. I was like, let's do this. When you're hanging out with people and everybody gets sort of tipsy, and then somebody wants to talk about ghosts. I'm not gonna call anybody stupid or say you want to talk about it. Sure, tell me about your
Yeah,
experiences. Let's go. Let's do this. So the same thing happened with religion and with all those things for me. I just grew up immersed in it and decided that I was just gonna roll with it when it popped up on my fiction.
and that's fantastic. It offers a window to a space that is not common in what I run across in my reading. That leads us to the second half of the well, the Merriam-Webster description of superstition, a notion maintained despite evidence to the contrary. And I will admit that I fell victim to superstition in my email interactions with you scheduling this interview. Like, so much. It's like, oh, he's got too much to do. He's got so much going on. Of course, he's going to ignore my email, and that's okay. You know, I'm used to rejection. I can handle it. Big girl. You know, so I mean, if I did come across as a total bitch, I'm so sorry.
No. I actually enjoy when people remind me. There's two things that happen with. I'm not gonna say I'm not busy, but my life would be easier if I were a little bit more organized. I'm not. I have a mental list, and sometimes stuff gets erased from it. And I just until I see it again, or suddenly it pops back up in my head, and I get to it. And the second thing is, I wake up. I go to bed around midnight. I wake up at 4 every morning, and I try to get things done. But like the summer is not really summer because I'm teaching 2 courses for Southern New Hampshire's MFA program. So I know that goes first. So sometimes I wake up at 4 in the morning and I'm thinking there's 3 emails or 1 email, 2 Facebook messages, and 3 Twitter DMs that I need to get to. And I swear I do it in my head. And then I just keep going on with my day until somebody says like, hey, sorry to bother you again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I answered your email this morning. No, I didn't, because what goes on in my head doesn't happen on the computer. So, yeah. And then, as I mentioned above, I hate now. I'm learning that on really important emails, Gmail will remind me after a couple days. It'll bounce it back up, and it says kind of like, this is from 4 days ago. You might want to get on this. Twitter doesn't do that.
No.
So on a day like today, so today I had 2 reviews go up at NPR. So those were widely shared, and then everybody and their dog who has a book coming up sends me a Twitter DM, which are always open. And half of those people I try to help. Send me a book. I'll find a home for that review. But then suddenly I get 25, 30, 35 DMs in a day. And then obviously the other ones that were already there waiting for my attention gets just like pushed down to the bottom. So I invite people to please, if you feel like you're nagging, you're not. You're being an assistant. That's what you're doing. You're reminding me that I need to be more organized, and you're just making sure that your stuff bounces back to the top, and then I actually get to it, not just in my head. So yeah. But here we are, which means that you somehow managed to beat the odds in my own muddy head, and here we are.
Okay. Well, I mean, in that whole bouncing around of priorities and the movement in your existence, give us some words about self-motivation and lighting that internal fire and drive to complete items, even though they may not be greeted well by the intended audience.
You know who cares about your work? Nobody. Nobody gives a shit about what you do. You have to make them care.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to be there just like waking you up in the morning, grabbing you by the hand, handing you your coffee. You have to do this because it matters to everybody. No, you have to get up and you have to do it, and you have to make people care. As I tell a lot of authors tell me, I don't want to get on YouTube because I don't really like to see my own face. I don't want to go on Twitter because I hate plugging my own work. It's like, well, if you don't, you're gonna sell your book to your mom and maybe one of your cousins that you get along with. That's about it. There's a fine line between staying humble and actually telling people, hey, I put my heart and soul into this. I really think you should check it out. It'd be super cool if you did, and be forever grateful. And that second one you should always definitely do. Get out there, motivate yourself. we need to pay bills, and that's why most of us have a job, and then the rest of your time it's yours. So when people tell me I want to write a book but I don't have the time, then I usually say, okay, so how many jobs do you have? Well, I have only one job. Do you have kids? No. Do you have to take care of a pet or like a grandma? No. So what do you do? Well, I binge watch Game of Thrones. Like I'll watch four
Consume
episodes in
instead
a
of
day.
create. Yes.
So that's fine. I mean, get entertained, listen to music, watch movies and documentaries, and enrich your life. But don't tell me you don't have time if you spend 5 hours in front of the TV. Then
Mhm.
you want to do it, you just don't want to do it bad enough.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for like self promotion. Do you want to sell your book? Everybody wants to sell books.
Mhm.
How bad do you want it? Are you
Yes.
willing to just stay out there constantly and be on your phone while you're doing other things and talking to people and saying yes to absolutely everything and learning to perform instead of read? Or do you just want to talk about it once every 6 months and hope that you become a New York Times bestseller? Um,
I hope.
yeah,
No.
good luck with that second option.
Oh man. Oh gosh. And yeah, and that's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. I mean, I'm here because I had a conversation with myself of how hungry am I? How badly do I want to talk to people? So I mean, I'm here. Um, but let's see. I was going to talk to you about gut mouth and writing in different genres. Now, what words do you have to say to us about that?
I I started writing and genre was not a thing that was going on in my head. I just wanted to tell different stories. So the first one was so weird that I knew only a bizarro fiction publisher would touch it. And then that happened. But then the second one, I was sort of in a mood for like a fun, thriller-ish sort of creature feature, I guess. And I knew that only a horror fiction publisher was going to touch it. And
Mhm.
then, luckily, with Zero Saints, it was published by Broken River Books, and they publish everything. So from literary fiction to crime to noir to whatever magical thing people like Rios de la Luz are doing. So I've been lucky. And then usually when I discuss genre with people, my description is that genres is just self-imposed constraints. Like tell the story that you want to tell, and then at the end of that, you can try to figure out how you're going to market the thing. So
Yeah.
when people say I really love crime fiction, I'm not trying too hard to sell books. I'm not lying to them about it. I'm like, you're going to dig my book. It's about bad guys and bad things. People get killed, and there's drug lords and the guys, the stew maker. He dissolves bodies for the cartels, and there's guns, and there's justice, and they're trying to kidnap kids and fuck Trump. And then when people say I love horror fiction, I say there's a woman who's pregnant with a slithering animal that comes out of her at night and eats babies across the border. And then there's a woman possessed by an older god, and she goes on a rampage with a machete. It's like, I'm not lying. So is
Mhm.
it crime or is it horror? Well, I don't care. It's my story. So I'm just
Mhm.
saying, if you like this genre, there's some elements of it. There's some magical realism in there. There's like a lot of things, because if I start thinking this is not usually done in noir, so I can't have a woman turning into a human cocoon because that's just weird. Then I'll be hurting the thing that I want to do most, which is my writing. I'll be saying the thing that I want to do I can't because I have this rule that I have to abide, and I don't do that. So sit down, write, do whatever you want, and screw genre. You can figure that stuff out later, or let somebody who does marketing or your own publisher put a name on it if they want, and then it's not a headache anymore.
Now, working with an agent, you had said that you just started that. Now, seriously, have you? How long has it been since you started working with your agent?
I have not. She was very nice. She reached out to me about a year half ago and said she had read Zero Saints and was I working on anything? And I said, I am. I'm about to finish it, but it has a home. And then she said, okay, here's what we can do. Uh, Put out that novel with Broken River because it already has a home. And then the next one that you write, send it to me. I'd love to take a look. She reached out again about a year ago, maybe less, and said, do you have anything? And I sent her about 20,000 words. She sent some feedback and said, I really like this. I like where it's going. Talk to me when it's done. 20,000 words is not a novel. So go finish it and then we'll talk. Uh, I never thought about working with an agent before because indie publishing has treated me so well. But now, for example, every time that I have to drive somewhere with my own books because distribution is an issue, then I start thinking maybe if I had, bigger press, I could have distribution. Or every time that I go to an event and I meet authors who are doing really nice things and getting nice opportunities and traveling, which I love to do. As soon as I start talking, the first thing that comes out of their mouth, well, I don't know how that happened, but my agent. I'm like, oh, okay, that's that's how that happens. You have an agent hustling for you, and then it's two people instead of one. So I hope he pans out because I'm, as you know, I'm willing to try anything if it might help. So I'll finish this novel this summer, send it to her, and if she loves it, we'll see how that goes.
I wish you all of the success.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. But yeah, and another thing that I will say is Broken River distribution of theirs is great because I say that because I went to my library to check this out the first time to read it, and I had to interlibrary loan it. And then I brought it back when I was complete, and I demanded that they purchase a copy for their location. And this is it. So good for them. They, yeah. So apparently, Broken River has good enough distribution to.
Oh, the Broken River has a lot of things that other indie presses don't have, and I will start with because I saw you holding it up. I will start with covers, and
yes.
if people want to pick a fight about this, Matt Revert is a genius. He's done both of my covers. He does all the covers for Broken River books, and he is a magician. And the layout is superb. Sometimes I open up exactly. I open up indie books and the layout sucks. And last but not least, when I talk about that person who makes everything a little bit better, that's J. David Osborne, who's my editor at. Well, he's everything at Broken River. He is Broken River Books. So the layout is on him, and the editing is on him, and those books are always super clean.
Awesome.
So yeah.
And I'm a big fan of the paper finish on this. It feels really nice on the skin. So there you go. Mm-hmm. Feels good in the hand.
And then maybe the stuff in the middle sometimes
the stuff in the middle
it kind of lives up to the cover from time to time.
Oh,
I'm always nervous about because Matt always gives me these covers, and as soon as I see the last version, I'm always wondering, like, my God, I would pick up this book if I saw it just based on the cover. And if somebody does that, is the stuff in the middle gonna live up to that cover?
Yes.
So yeah, it's good and it's bad to have such great covers from yeah.
So there we go. Yeah, how long did it take you to write Coyote Songs?
Less than Zero Saints, probably a year.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, probably a year to write it, and then I don't know how to explain this. It's sort of maybe I would work on it for 3 months, and then life happened, and for a couple months I couldn't, and that's why Zero Saints came out in 2015. I believe, October of 2015, and
Yes.
it was 3 years between books, which hopefully I'm gonna try really hard to never do that again. Uh, I can't put out books every year. I can't put out books every 2 weeks like James Patterson because I actually write my own.
Gosh.
Uh, but but I'm gonna try to do at least one per year. That sounds doable.
Okay.
Hopefully.
So this one was broken up into a series of smaller tales that loop together um, underneath the unifying story. Now, did you pace yourself in any way to get each portion done, or schedule that? Just trying to figure out
The
how the priorities setting goes on in Gabino's world.
well, the ghost, La Bruja, the
Hmm.
mother who uh, loses her son and then becomes an angry ghost.
Yes.
Her story was clear
Whoa.
in my head from beginning to end.
Yeah,
So I
that was good.
yeah, thank you. I sat down and I think I probably wrote all of her chapters as like one thing. Uh, and then Jaime's story was something that was based originally. It was like a flash piece based on a true story from a friend of mine who did a little bit of time, and then he came out, and then situations at the home weren't ideal, and then that became sort of a published short story, but I wasn't quite happy because I needed more. And then I wrote a longer version that was published by Hex Publishers in an anthology about. Um, it was called Gasoline in Action. I can't remember the title right now, and I still wasn't happy. So I sat down and for this I reworked the whole thing, made it much longer, and then added Jaime to this thing. Um, and then using conversations with a few friends and also with superb one of my favorite authors, David Joy, who's also an avid fisherman. um, I had this idea about I wanted to start one of the stories with fishing. uh, so the opening of the book, which is a fishing scene, David Joy is mentioned in there as being an author of a book that doesn't exist.
Mhm.
It was kind of this fun thing that I wanted to do, and then once that scene was written, I was like, I like where this is going. This is pretty weird. So I wonder what I can do with this skid who just watched his dad get his brains blown out by a guy on the other side of the river. So let me just tie this all up together, and the rest were just like jumping. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I once I had all the others more or less in place, I started filling in spaces between those chapters with chapters from other people. So those chapters I wrote separately, which sort of included a lot of going back and rereading everything to make sure that it kind of had some
Continuity.
cohesion. Yeah, correct. Yes. Um,
Oh,
yeah, that worried me a lot, but went back, read my own stuff, which helps with editing too. Uh,
yes.
and then hopefully it fits together.
Which it all did, and very
Thank
well.
you.
You are welcome. You are quite welcome. Now, what is one of the struggles that you find yourself constantly facing when you sit down to write?
I think that the main struggle is finding that time to sit down and write
Mm-hmm.
and just turn the world off. No work, no reading, no reviews, no teaching, no grading, no lesson plans, no interviews, no emails, no nothing. Some music, couple hours to write, and the laptop. Uh, it just keeps getting harder and harder to find that time. Uh, and I've thought about like maybe I should sleep even less,
Oh no.
but but I have this cycle now where it's like I'll be fine I'll be perfect for a week, and I'll be fine for that second week. That third week, I start getting tired, and then I'll get to that final week of the month, and then if I'm sitting down for too long not doing anything, I'll start nodding off. Uh,
Yeah.
so so yeah, I don't know. It's since August when I started the full time teaching job. It's sort of gotten harder to find those nice chunks of time. So now it's basically if I have a thought in my head, I'll type it on my phone, or during lunch I'll just write really quickly for 20 minutes.
Oh my.
Um, so I'm trying to trick myself into finding those little spots during the day where you can squeeze in
Mhm.
um, 20 minutes. So if I can't sit down and write for an hour, maybe I can sit down and write for 15 minutes 5 or 6 times, and then I end up doing more work. I don't know.
Now,
I'll report.
do you find yourself having such a limited amount to apply towards a goal that the goal is more in focus and that your
Hmm.
writing is your writing more productive?
I would like to say yes, but I can't because sometimes I struggle to to find that little chunk of time, and then I
Mhm.
sit there and I'm like, my mind, it's not here. It's elsewhere, and it's just unproductive time. And I don't sit around and wait for the muse. It's either
Mhm.
I sit down and I start writing, or I sit down. It's not happening today. I have other things to do, so let me go finish this piece for
Yeah,
the actor, or polish that review, or do something else.
yeah.
Um, but it's summer now, so hopefully
Mhm.
I'll as soon as I get back to Austin, I'll have some time during the day to sort of force myself to not do anything else.
To flip that switch on and hope that the muse shows up.
Yes, very loud music, and close the windows and let the darkness pour out.
So now, when you say loud music, so what would you say your primary listening is?
That's funny because I get in these moods, and then I'll try to match those moods. So it's
Mhm.
weird because Hungry Darkness was written, and I was listening at that time to nothing but blues, which that kind of doesn't go with a creature feature. But in my head, it did. And then I listened to a lot of salsa music, a lot of reggaeton, a lot of narco corridos when I was writing Zero Saints, and then probably 3/4 of Coyote songs. I was just into like atmospheric black metal, so that was I felt like I was walking through the dark woods with an axe in my hand for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and then this next one is sort of like dark ambient for some reason, which I don't know if you listen to really good dark ambient for a while,
Like Sun
you
O or
yeah, that type of music will get you in a mood. So
yeah.
I have to stop the music and sort of maybe interact with a plant first before you start talking to a person. Uh, yeah. So yeah, that's what's going on now. Maybe it'll change. I don't know.
Now, speaking of also of music, what's the first musical album that you ever bought with your own money?
With my own money,
Yeah.
Blues Traveler 4.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, thank
Oh my
you. I'm not
goodness.
21 anymore.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what job? Oh, did you go away? Oh,
I'm
okay.
here. Now,
Okay.
I
First I
think I
thought
have
the
a. Here we go.
yay.
Battery. We're good.
Oh, okay, great. Great. Now, I know you also do the MFA. You teach high school.
Yep.
So, what job, if you were offered it, would make you immediately drop everything you're doing to say yes to?
If I could teach writing at a college level full time,
Mhm.
I would drop absolutely everything and go do that. Or if I could find the New York Times or the good folks at NPR said we're gonna offer you a full time reviewing gig, where
Mhm.
I could just literally pay all my bills reading books and writing about them.
Wow.
I would probably cry and then say yes, yes. So yeah, one of those two.
Okay. Now, what album can you listen to all the way through without skipping a single track?
Uh, I just drove. I couldn't afford tickets out of Austin to come to Puerto Rico, so
Mhm.
I did something that I've done 5 or 6 times, and I also have friends and family down in Florida. So I drive from Austin to Orlando, which is about 17 to 19 hours, depending on traffic and rain, and a bunch of other things. So in the last 3 trips, I've found myself when it's dark outside listening to very early Tom Waits, "The Heart of Saturday Night,"
Oh man.
uh, and I don't skip any songs, which is kind of weird. So lately, in the last 2 or 3 trips, it's been that.
Now, let's see. What's the most gracious response or rejection that you have ever had?
Gracious response or rejection. I think when it's a positive response, you kind of don't notice because the overall theme is like, yes, this is
Mhm.
happening.
Yeah,
So it'd have to be rejections, and
response to a rejection.
yeah, hmm, I don't know.
Now I'm talking about your writing, but then of course you can apply that question to your life however you want.
Let's see. Hmm, been rejected so many times.
Hmm.
I've collected rejections.
Hmm.
Oh, I really had my with that first novel. I found a professor at UT who offered to read it, and he read it. And I knew nothing about publishing at the time. And he had a superb agent in Dallas who basically built a career along with him. They just grew together. And he said, with my words of recommendation, he'll probably pick this up. And this is kind of like what you can expect. Not knowing anything about publishing, he said those things, and I was like, "Yeah, no, that works for me." So I thought that was kind of how it worked. Indeed, it is kind of how that works. It's
Right.
really at different stages in your career when that happens. So I sent it off to him, and he read it, and his email sort of started with, "Wow, this is great. It's so dark. It's a lot of fun. It's packed with action, and it's just not something I think I could sell." And I was like, oh, okay. Now I'm learning this is how that works. They'll tell you
Ah.
how awesome it is, and then they'll tell you why it's not for them,
Mhm.
which is something that I've encountered 27,000 times
Yes.
since. But now I'm kind of expecting it. If the beginning of the email is super positive, you
Mhm.
can sort of try to wait a little bit before you celebrate, because there's a period, and then they say however, uh,
Mhm.
or in any case, and then the entire discourse changes, and what they really wanted to say was no.
Yes.
So yeah.
What's that?
What are you talking about? I'm doing an interview, sir.
Interview for what?
Can we talk later?
No.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh,
Sorry for the interruption.
that's okay. That is quite all right. At least you didn't have to wipe any poopy butts.
No, no, none of that. No.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, what's the most agonizing career decision that you have ever had to make?
Oh, every time this year, for some reason, I've had the opportunity to travel quite a bit.
Huh?
And you every time that you say yes to something, you're excited, and then something else gets to has to be sacrificed.
Mm.
So when I went to the Grand Rapids for StokerCon, I was
Yes.
finishing the edits on another novel. So I was working on an editing gig. So I didn't get to hang out at the bar with all
Oh.
my horror heroes. Uh, every time that I've traveled on a Friday because I need to do something on a Saturday, I have to not write at all anything that week because I have to leave lesson plans and materials for the subs to cover me on
Oh.
a Friday. So every time that I say yes to something, the most agonizing things, accepting one thing or two things, are not gonna get done.
Mm.
And you want to do them all, and they're all equally important, and you don't want to look lazy in any of your aspects of your life,
Mm.
but you always have to choose one um, or two that suffer, and that kind of still hurts every time.
Now, how did you make your first dollar?
My first dollar, I probably stole it. How did I make my first dollar? Um,
Legit, legitimately.
the first legit dollar. I was probably either mowing lawns or washing cars.
Okay.
So I remember doing a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, hypothetical question. Your younger sister, damn it, Carolyn, she got you one of those DNA kits. You return the vial of spit, and suddenly men in black suits swarm your home, and you learn that you have had a secret parent with lineage far, far from home, perhaps from another galaxy. What does this new knowledge now explain to you about yourself?
A lot. Um, it explains why I don't need more sleep, which is something that I've been doing for 8 years. And I'm an ATI certified personal trainer. All the personal trainers that I know, all the doctors that I know tell me the exact same thing. You need your rest. It's not a sustainable system. You're going to crash and burn. So that would explain that. Uh, it would also explain my ability to eat food beyond a human level. Like, I probably have four stomachs. Or because I live in Austin, I don't have allergies. And
Okay.
99.9% of the individuals that I've met in Austin have some kind of allergy. It's pollen or dust mites or cedar fever. And cedar fever season, I'll just go for a jog. I don't have any allergies to anything that goes up your nose. And that's pretty alien. So
Okay.
yeah.
Now, what's one thing that you are exceptionally good at?
Oh, tuning the hell out. Like, just give me a book, and you want to go to the workroom and I'm reading, and you want to have a conversation about how awesome your date was this weekend, but the conversation is not with me. I have a superb ability to tune out, and you end up sounding like the motor on a plane when you're just sitting there and you stop hearing it altogether. I can do that almost every single time that I try to do it.
Okay. Now,
So I'm
what are
sorry that I just
that's
realized
okay.
that sounds like, what are you good at? Ignoring people. I'm
Hey.
really good at ignoring folks.
Hey, it's a skill. It's a
It's a
skill.
skill. It's a skill. Yeah.
What are you really bad at?
Uh, 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 Not getting angry.
Okay.
But I'm working on it because the internet teaches you to not get angry or you will waste a lot of time.
Yes.
So now I've been working on that. I breathe deeply, and I realized the guy calling me a beaner on Twitter only has 12 followers and 6 are bots. So
Yeah.
I don't have to punch a wall. It's okay. I'm gonna go have a cookie.
Okay.
And then just I'm working on it. Yeah.
How do you like to hit the reset button after a terrible day or experience?
Music. Close your eyes. Go somewhere else. listen to music. Or when you have an opportunity, you save it all up, you bottle it, and then you come to the Caribbean and you go to the beach. And you
Ooh,
get in the water and you just let it all out, and the ocean takes it away forever.
nice. Yeah, that the ocean is a reset button for the soul. That's my rule.
Yes,
Oh
exactly.
man. But yeah, we've reached the final 5 questions of our interview.
All right.
Before I reach that point, though, I'm gonna go meta for a second and ask you, what question do you wish I would have asked you?
Why do you like to be on interviews?
Yes. Why do you like to be on interviews?
Uh, I know the internet is weird, so don't be too specific. But where are you located in our map?
Okay. The
U.S.
contiguous
map.
United
Yes.
States. The
Yeah.
contiguous United States is a dartboard. Okay. You can
Right.
throw a dart at it. It lands right in the center.
All right.
That's this. I'm near Kansas City.
So what are the odds of you and me having this conversation over coffee if you're near Kansas City and I'm in Austin?
Hey.
In Texas talks lemon none. So
Hey. But yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, there's a conference out there that I probably will find myself at. I'm certain.
all right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. So
Final 5.
final 5 questions. Video game or tabletop games? Which one are your favorite if you had to choose?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go with tabletop.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, I've got to follow up with why.
I was talking about this last week.
Mm.
Before I flew here, I went to Florida. I stayed with some friends for one night to catch my plane, and we were having an argument. Can you peacefully go from the start of the game to the very ending of a Monopoly game without fighting, talking trash,
No.
or somebody getting really angry? And during that conversation, I realized Monopoly is the best game to see people lose their minds and get angry at one another. So I'm going to have to go with Monopoly, which is also interminable. It's just an endless freaking game. So it tests your patience. So I'm going to go with that.
Okay, now I'm gonna expand upon this Monopoly discussion because some friends of mine local have been all like, okay, so how about we try playing Monopoly with and stock the bank with real money? I'm like,
That's the first chapter of a true crime book.
yeah.
Something bad's going to happen.
No. No. But yeah, Star Wars, Star Trek, or for those of us that like neither of the previous selections, Dune. Which one? And why?
I'm going to go with Star Wars because I didn't learn about Dune until I started reading and learn about Herbert's novel. And I didn't really watch a lot of TV, but I was always a movie guy. And of course, I think part of if you're a film person at some point in your young life, unless you're 90, at some point in your young life, you will watch those original 3, and it will kind of change the way that you look at sci-fi and the way you look at movies and the way you look at costumes. And yeah, so I'm going to go with Star Wars.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
I would like to fly, so I could go everywhere.
Okay.
And fight crime or whatever on the weekend. But
Now,
also travel.
yes. Now you have an excuse to travel. You have family and work are both geographically all over now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Marvel or DC? or have you even are you that familiar with comic books?
Marvel.
Okay.
I see
Why is
DC
that?
trying.
Yeah,
DC tries. They try really hard.
they do.
Marvel, they from time to time they will make me laugh, and I don't think they try that hard. It's just the way that they built their entire universe. It's just like they have some outstanding writers, and I mean all the movies are flawed. You can say whatever you want, but you sit there, you're entertained, you're moved from time to time, and then you laugh from time to time. So sorry, DC, but Marvel for me.
Okay. Now, science fiction or fantasy? Choose.
Sci-fi.
You must choose. Okay.
Sorry, fantasy. Sci-fi.
Okay.
Only because most of my friends who read were into the wrong kind of sci-fi, into the wrong kind of fantasy. So they
Oh.
would come up to me with like these 800-page books with like dragons and magicians and swords, and I wasn't about that when I was like 14. And sci-fi, that people went to the moon and they got parasites and everybody died. And there was always like an alien trying to kill everybody or a disease that was
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm just tapping the metaphorical clock because
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, there's things happening. There, yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So sci-fi all the way.
Cool. Awesome. So, thank you again, Gabino, for taking the time to speak with me this evening. I really do
Thank you.
appreciate it. And I wish you safe travels and a wonderful rest of your trip. And I hope to see more from you within the next year or so.
I'm trying. Promise.
Okay. All right. I might hold you to that. Okay.
All right. Thank you for having me.
You take care. Goodbye.
All right. Talk to you.